Well, as promised, our next item on the program is alternative health, and there's been a lot of talk about alternative medicine, the idea that aches and pains need not be cured by 20th century drugs, but by other seemingly healthier methods, and it's attractive to quite a few people. In fact, Prince Charles has said he approves of alternative medicine to some extent. Well, one practitioner of various forms of alternative medicine is Martin Felt, who's been in this field for the past 14 years. He joins me in the studio now. Martin, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Would you like to tell me exactly what it is you do, in what sort of areas of alternative medicine you work?
Yes. My basic concern is to provide the consumer, practitioners, with a high level of information regarding health choices. I think my main concern is that today people want to see how they can prevent disease and how they can improve on wellness. So there's a vast area of educational work that can be done, and I go through an evaluation process.
Yes, but if I was to say to you right now, I've got a headache and a bit of catarrh and
Right.
feeling just generally a bit dodgy, what would you say to me? Would you? I mean, normally I would take a paracetamol or whatever.
Right. Well, there's ways to generally proceed where you can make kind of an offhanded recommendation, which is general. But what I'm more inclined to do is a comprehensive evaluation, because it's my belief and my experience that each symptom is related to a possible stress on the internal mechanisms of the glands and organs which operate the body. So we would want to relate your symptoms back to the stress points that may be taking place. And I have an inventory questionnaire that I go over with an individual to determine that.
Yes, we once had a woman in here who made me take my shoes and socks off and was pressing on various points of the foot. Now, that's cool. What's that one called?
That's called reflexology.
Reflexology. Is that one of the forms of medicine that you approve of?
Well, I think it has its applications. Again, I think the major concern in the field of holistic and alternative medicine is how and in what capacity the various practices apply. And you see, we work along with medicine, or I would like to believe that it's a complement, because it does not take the place of comprehensive medical treatment. So it's an alternative, adjunctive therapy.
Right. And are there a lot of cranks operating in this field? Because, you know, you hear, and especially more and more these days, you hear of people doing all sorts of forms of medicine, whether it's acupuncture or reflexology that we mentioned. We had somebody yesterday who was in here talking about colours, and colours can cure by shining a yellow light on you. You could cure catarrh or whatever. I mean, do you think there are a lot of cranks, or do you think all these forms of alternative medicine have something to say for them?
Well, I think there's something definitely to be said for many of the alternative approaches. However, it's not like any other business. In any business where there's an increasing share of the market in terms of pounds being made, there's always going to be people misrepresenting. So it's not different than being a car salesman or anything else. However, when it relates to people's infirmities where there's suffering involved of a physical or emotional nature, then certainly people are going to be capitalizing on the misfortunes of the public. But I would say that the most important question is the application in terms of whatever therapy is suggested, because it's not my feeling that you can take any one of the holistic methods and approaches and apply them across the board to every disease. But specific ones apply to specific conditions. For example, in nutrition, where any disease may be able to be improved by the relieving of particular types of stress on the body, the mind, and the spirit through good nutrition. So you can say that nutrition is becoming more of the mainstream concern for the average consumer for that very precise reason, that it's what everybody can do.
Yeah, what you mean is you'd ask people what sort of foods they were eating, and if they said hamburgers and chips, you might say, well, if you change to nut cutlets and whatever. I mean,
well, I wouldn't generally say that. No, I'm not a vegetarian, but our major concern is to take many of the recommendations that have been made by different agencies here in the UK as well as in America. And in the early 70s, the United States Senate did a study on the average American diet, and they made the following recommendations to the American population. They said that the average American needed to cut back on their fats, particularly in the form of red meats and saturated fats. They said that the average person needed to increase their consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. And further on, they may
But you're not telling us anything particularly new in this, because
no, it
everybody knows
isn't.
about this.
However, what we then have to go on to say is that in any particular disease pattern, be it cancer or arthritis or multiple sclerosis or any type of chronic or acute disease, there may be, and I underline the word there may be, specific dietary and supplementary products that an individual can use which may improve their condition. We don't want to say cure. We don't want to say reduce it. We say the possibility that it can help.
If people were to phone in this morning and say that they had something particularly wrong with them, could you give them some advice?
Oh, very definitely. We definitely could do that.
Okay. Well, if you fancy talking to Dr. Martin Felt about alternative medicine, do give us a ring now. It's Leeds. That's 0532 443222. So Leeds 443222. If you want to speak to Dr. Martin Felt about alternative medicine, or to stress, Dr. Felt, that you're not a doctor of medicine, you're a doctor of divinity, and you were telling me you qualified as a rabbi, in fact.
That's correct. I attended a seminary in Princeton, New Jersey, and before that, over the last 10 years, I principally was working as a nutritional consultant in Philadelphia in the United States, along with medical doctors who were seeking to possibly use nutrition and the various modalities like it as an alternative treatment in certain types of disease patterns.
Yeah, how does what you're doing now in this alternative medical field tie in with being a rabbi? I mean, what does the Jewish faith feel
Well,
about
it's not
this?
just the Jewish faith, because we want to speak to the general population, but in looking at health as physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health, we would say that in the spiritual realm, what we'd be looking to help an individual who was unwell or suffering from any disease is to find various ways to practice and exercise a form of renewal. Because we could say, in essence, spirituality is a form of renewal. So that would very much be in keeping with focusing on the physical aspect of the disease, and in the premise of holistic health, we like to treat the person, not just the symptom.
Okay, well, if you're at all interested in this field, or you feel it might be able to help you in any way, do give us a ring. It's Leeds 443222. 0532 443222 if you want to speak to Dr. Martin Felt about alternative medicine.
Help! Help! Somebody help!
Gosh, look up there. That woman, I bet she's 30 feet up, at least.
Help! Help!
It's Superman.
Oh, thank goodness!
Oh, no.
What's the matter?
I haven't got a head for heights, you know I had.
Oh, for goodness sake! Hello down there! Hello!
Yeah.
Did somebody phone Swaps and Trades?
Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah, I'd like to swap a superhero for a trampoline.
Swaps and Trades, all part of the Tea Time Show, every afternoon between 3:30 and 6, only on Radio Leeds.
Great, thanks, Tone. Let's go to Chris, who's on the line. Chris, good morning to you.
Hello there.
What would you like to ask Dr. Felt?
Well, I suffer from multiple sclerosis, and I wonder if you could give me any advice at all. I've had it 17 years now. I'm wheelchair bound, and I've had various remissions and such like, but at the moment I'm just wheelchair bound and very weak in my upper arms as well.
Okay, Dr. Felt.
Yeah, first of all, what we want to say about MS is that it's obviously a disease which is dramatically affecting the ability of the nerves to pass biochemical information back and forth from the brain center. So in that regard, the major supplementation that we would be looking at would be the increased availability of B vitamins, because they're specifically beneficial for the most important connector of nerve construction in the tissue, which is called the myelin sheath. So B vitamins are known to be able to help in the rebuilding of the myelin sheath, which is dramatically damaged.
So what should Chris eat for B vitamins?
Well, B vitamins find their highest source in all whole grains and all whole vegetables. But what we would be saying in addition to that is the supplementation of B vitamins into the diet between the range of 50 to 250 milligrams of a balanced B complex a day. And what I would suggest and say right out is that we couldn't make a specific exacting recommendation, but if this gentleman leaves his name and address, we can send him some additional general information for his reading.
Okay, Chris, are you taking any vitamin supplements at the moment?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you leave your address with Siobhan, who's been talking to you on the phone, I'll make sure, or at least I'll ask Dr. Felt to send you his details.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed for your call.
Right.
And well, I hope you're feeling a little better in the future. Let's move to Thelma. Thelma, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What would you like to ask Chris?
Well, I would
Sorry, Martin.
I'd like to just ask Dr. Phelps' opinion. I would like to go on to alternative medicine, but of course I'm an old lady, mind you, I'm 80 nearly.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I'm under the hospital and nothing they've done is done any good. And I don't believe in taking all these drugs. I'm tired of them and they do no good. Now I'm suffering from arthritis of the spine, which I've had. I'm housebound, have been for 3 years. But I'd like to ask Dr. Phelps his opinion. I have two complicated things. They can do nothing about the arthritis, we know, only painkillers. And it's gone right up to the shoulders, of course, and the neck. But the other thing I have is diverticulosis.
Oh, yes.
Now, I presume Dr. Phelps will know about that.
Yes.
You see, one doctor told me at the hospital, actually.
Well, let's see what Dr. Felt says.
Let's
First
take
of
one
all,
thing at a time.
Thelma, first of all about the arthritis.
Yes, well, that.
Hold on.
Hold on just a second. Let's
We'll
see what Dr. Felt says.
Yeah. First off, what we want to say about the arthritic situation is that the area of the body which has a great impact on how the body naturally responds to infection and inflammation is the adrenal glands.
Yes.
And it's at the adrenal glands that the body secretes adrenaline, as you may know, and also its own natural corticosteroids. In other words, the body secretes its own natural inflammatory agents.
Yes.
And there is a specific B vitamin called B5, which is also known generically as pantothenic acid. And in numerous clinical studies in the United States, they have found that the application of 100 to 250 milligrams of pantothenic acid taken with breakfast and lunch can be extremely helpful to reduce the pain and inflammation associated with arthritis.
Okay, what about Thelma's other problem?
Yes.
That's one of the worst things, Doctor. I mean, I know the arthritis we have to put up more on.
Yes.
Now, they've told me at the hospital, it's a thing they can do nothing about.
Well, that's not correct. First of all, what you're speaking of is called diverticulitis.
Yeah,
And this is so the people who are listening know what that is. It's a condition which affects the bowel, the colon, where there's actually blockage and a collapse of the muscle elasticity of the colon.
Yes.
Your colon is basically a muscle which moves and helps break down, absorb, and metabolize certain nutrients.
Yes.
And what's basically happening in that condition is that there's blockages. And what we see in the alternative therapy field is that there are specific nutrients which can begin to rebalance the general bacterial climate in the bowel.
Yes.
And one of those things is acidophilus. And also we need to increase dramatically, given the particular condition, the fiber intake. However, diverticular cannot just be generally approached. What I would suggest, because you are an old age pensioner, that there are various hospitals which do things like homeopathic treatments.
Yes.
Right. Thelma, if I can ask you to stay on the line, in fact, everybody who's called, so we can get names and addresses and phone numbers, and Dr. Field, I'm sure
That's
you'll
right.
be prepared to phone people back and give
That's
them
correct.
more detailed information. We have to stress, of course, as you said earlier on, what you're doing is an adjunct to anything that they might be hearing from the doctor or hospital and everything else. We'll take one more call, in fact, and we have Barbara on the line. Barbara, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What would you like to ask Dr. Phelps?
I'm wanting to ask, I have done for 10 years from multiple sclerosis.
Yes.
And I wondered if there's anything
Yes.
that, can be done.
Yes. As I said earlier, and I'll go into it a bit more specifically, with some of the research which I've investigated, there seems to be a strong correlation with the multiple sclerosis situation, which with a tremendous need for nourishment to the nervous system. And as I said earlier, the specific vitamins which are very important are the B vitamins. Also, making absolutely necessary and certain that you're eating an extremely whole foods diet. Now, what that means is that you want to cut out things like white flour products and white sugar, which are what we call refined carbohydrates, because these do not make available to the body chemistry all the essential nutrients. Also, greatly reducing your fat consumption, because the more fat that's in the body, the more it insulates and reduces neurological activity. So if we can get your name, we can also pass you on additional information. As
right.
Yeah.
Well, and lots of people wanting to talk to you, actually. We have to leave it there. But Dr. Felt, if you could sort of hang around for a bit and have a word with Siobhan, and Siobhan, who's been talking to all the callers, a lot of people wanting to get through to you this morning, and see if you can help relieve their particular situation. Also, if you want to listen to Dr. Martin Felt talking about his alternative medicine, alternative health plans, you're at Otley tonight, is that correct?
That's correct. I think you have the particulars.
I've got all the details
That's
tonight.
great.
Thanks very much indeed, Dr. Felt, for coming in. He's at the Otley Civic Centre, the main hall, tonight, 7:30 to 9:30, and herbal tea refreshments will be served. That's tonight, 7:30 to 9:30, if you want to hear Dr. Martin Felt, alternative medical practitioner. Many thanks indeed again to Dr. Felt for coming in and dealing with your calls. It's 26 minutes to midday, and this is Randy Edelman.
You to me are sweet as roses in the morning.